What's going on, Twins fans, and welcome back to another episode of Twins Latest. As always, I'm Sam Calder, and I'm excited to talk some ball with you guys today. We've got a fun episode on deck with a lot to talk about, and I just looked down at my phone about a second before I pressed record, and I saw that the Twins and Rockies just made a trade. We're not going to touch on any of it today, but rest assured, tomorrow we will dive deep into that move for the Twins. But without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. There was a player, or is a player, I should say, on another team that is currently involved in trade rumors at a position that I feel like the Twins could really use an upgrade at. I mentioned some Trevor Larnach trade rumors last week with him not being at Twins Fest, and I mentioned at the time not being super sold on him as a player. I think adding a stronger left fielder would benefit the Twins lineup a lot, and Red Sox left fielder Jarren Duran is supposedly on the trade block. So just for the fun of it, what would a hypothetical Jarren Duran trade look like should the Twins go out and acquire him? And what would that mean for Trevor Larnach and the left field spot? This is a little tricky because we don't really know how teams are going to value Duran. He does have multiple years left on his contract, but he'll be 30 by the end of the year. They're not paying him much, but I mean, for a 30-year-old who is still on a relatively cheap deal, it just means you're going to have to pay him more as he continues to age. Not usually something teams are super on board for. And he's coming off a bit of a down year for his standards. He hit 256 with a 332 on base percentage, but he is still a very, very good hitter. Don't get it twisted. He had 70 extra base hits on the season, and he can drive the ball to all parts of the field. He's also stolen 58 bases in the last two seasons as well. So he can do a little bit of everything, and I think he'd make a really nice addition in left field. So, what would this trade consist of? I'm going to make things easier on myself and say that Trevor Larnach will be included in the return to Boston. So, left field will automatically open up, and Jarren Duran can just slide right in. As well as Larnach, there will be two other prospects going to Boston in this deal. The first one is going to be outfielder Kalai Rosario. He is a 6 foot, 205-pound outfielder, as I mentioned. He spent all of 2025 in Double-A and had a pretty good year. He hit 256 with a 358 on base percentage, 25 home runs, and 32 stolen bases over 130 games. So he possesses a really nice power speed combination, although it's possible that last year was an outlier for him in the speed department. He'd never stolen more than 7 bases in a minor league season prior to last year, and then out of nowhere just rips off 32. Maybe he just got a lot faster, but I bet he's not going to be stealing 30 bases year in and year out. He also struck out 159 times at Double-A. So as good as the power speed combination was, there are certainly things he needs to improve on. Because a 27.5 strikeout rate at Double-A will not translate well to the majors. But along with Rosario is another prospect who has a ton of upside, but also a lot of downside. And a fan of the show, Mr. L Downs 12, is not going to like this one. But Charlie Soto is the other name that I have going to Boston. Soto is a 6'3", 210-pound righty. His fastball gets up to about 98 miles an hour in game, and he's been rumored to have touched triple digits in a bullpen, and he's still only 20 years old. In 2024 at low single A, he really struggled. He had a 5.23 ERA and 33 walks over 74 innings pitched. Then last year at high single A, he kicks off the year with a 1.38 ERA through 3 starts, and then suffered a tricep strain in his pitching arm that forced him to miss the rest of the season. And it kind of seems like the Twins might have misdiagnosed his injury at first, because he was placed on the 7-day injured list in April when this first happened. Then he was moved to the 60-day injured list in June, and then finally had surgery in August. So something tells me they didn't know the full extent of what was going on with him. But now you've got reports are that he'll be fully healthy for spring training. But if he's not, you now know why. My concern with him, we've really only seen 13 career innings of him putting together multiple solid starts in a row, and he's already suffered a season-ending injury in his throwing arm. And like I said, the guy's only 20, so A, how long would it take him to realistically get to the majors? And B, with how hard he throws, is he a potential injury risk who will need to be moved to the bullpen long term? In my opinion, he'll be a reliever if/when he gets to the majors. But as I've said, he's still got a ways to go before he's ready to be an MLB pitcher. So just to recap, My hypothetical trade offer to Boston for Jarren Duran looks like this. The Twins get Duran, and Boston gets outfielder Trevor Larnach, outfielder Kalai Rosario, and right-handed pitcher Charlie Soto. And the way I see it, we're moving a below-average MLB outfielder in Trevor Larnach, who, no disrespect to him, but like I said last week, I personally believe he is slightly below average, as well as two prospects who both have upside, but also both carry long-term risks in exchange for one of the better hitters in the MLB in Jarren Duran, who would be a defensive upgrade in left field and can steal 30 bases in a season. I'd be extremely happy if the Twins could pull this off in real life, though I'm not sure the likelihood of Duran being moved by Boston at this point in the offseason. But shifting from Jarren Duran, I want to talk about the Twins' new manager, Derek Shelton, and what should we expect from him in his first year as the Twins manager. For starters, he spent the last 6 years in Pittsburgh as the Pirates manager, and in those 6 years, the Pirates never ended the year with a winning record. In fact, Pittsburgh finished with the worst record in the National League Central in 4 of the 6 years that Shelton was their manager. They finished 4th the other 2 years that they weren't dead last. But how much of that can be contributed to the talent level of the Pirates over the last handful of years, and how much of that is on Derek Shelton? The Pirates lineup has been amongst the worst in Major League Baseball for the past handful of years from a talent perspective. And so there's only so much that a manager can do when the talent just isn't fully there. But I did some digging into his managerial tendencies. And in doing so, I learned that managers have stats. And I know there's stats for just about everything these days in baseball, but I was not aware of these. So shout out to Baseball Reference for these. Shelton was one of the most aggressive managers in all of baseball last year when it came to giving guys the steal sign, albeit he was only the manager for 38 games, but still encouraging to see. The Pirates had 362 chances to steal second, and Baseball Reference considers a chance to be every plate appearance with a runner on first and nobody on second, just so everybody's on the same page with that. Shelton gave the steal sign on 40 out of 362 chances, which is 11% of the time. And I should say runners took off on 40 of those 362 chances. He might have given the steal sign on more of them. I don't know. But 11% of the time, the runner took off from first. For reference, Rocco Baldelli tried to run on 9.5% of all of the Twins' chances last year. So Shelton was the more aggressive manager when it came to stealing second. He was also more aggressive at stealing third, which he has been his whole career. The Pirates had 218 plate appearances with a runner on second and nobody on third. Shelton attempted a steal of third base 6 times, which was 2.8% of all of his chances, which doesn't sound like much, but compared to other MLB managers, that's a lot. That number for Rocco Baldelli last year, as a reference, was 1%, so nearly 3 times as much as Baldelli would send guys. So I think the Twins will definitely see, or I think we will definitely see the Twins, rather, be a more aggressive team on the base paths in 2026. And I'll talk about here in just a minute who those guys might be. Looking at the number of pitchers each manager used per game last year, both Shelton and Baldelli were basically the exact same. Shelton used an average of 4.3 pitchers per game. Baldelli used 4.4. So both guys like to err on the side of caution when it comes to letting their pitchers go. Now, when it came to his ace in Pittsburgh, Paul Skeens, he let him go a little bit further into games, but that's because Paul Skeens is a top 2 or 3 pitcher in all of baseball, so that's a little bit of a different situation. The last thing I wanted to look at with Derek Shelton is how he handles save opportunities, and it kind of varied by year. 2021, there were multiple guys with 8 or more saves for the Pirates. Then in 2022 and 2023, there was really just one set closer. That was David Bednar. Then in 2024 and 2025, you had Bednar struggling a little bit more, so there were multiple closers again. I mentioned it when we did a bullpen deep dive last week. I anticipate there not really being a set closer for the Twins this year, and I think that's kind of just becoming more and more common across the league, and it's always nice to have multiple guys that you can count on to close a game out. So I think for the most part, Derek Shelton and Rocco Baldelli have pretty similar managerial tendencies, aside from being a little more aggressive on the base paths from Shelton's perspective, which leads me to the next thing that I want to talk about today. With what we know about Shelton's tendency this past year to send runners more frequently, who are the top candidates to be stolen base threats for the Twins in 2026? There's a couple guys we know. are safe bets to run. The first of which being Byron Buxton. We've known about his speed for a decade plus at this point. He stole 24 bases last year without being thrown out a single time. If he's healthy, you can assume that Byron Buxton will be running. The other name is Luke Keeschall. Keeschall stole 14 bases in 49 MLB games last year. He stole another 11 in 28 games at AAA as well. The Twins have not had anyone steal 40 bases in a season since Ben Revere did it in 2012. Keeschall is the type of guy who could get to that 40 stolen base mark this season. And funny enough, he's played in exactly 162 minor league games in his career. So I don't need to do the whole find his 162 game pace. It's just right there for me. He's stolen 45 bases on 53 attempts in those 162 minor league games. Buxton and Keeschall are projected to be the top two in the Twins batting order. Expect them both to run quite a bit as well. As far as some other guys who could see an uptick in stolen bases this year, sorry, I just hit my little stand here, move my camera around a little bit. The first name that stands out has a big caveat next to his name, but it's Royce Lewis. Lewis has never been a guy that steals bases since he came into the league. From 2022 to 2024, he had just 6 total stolen bases. Then randomly last year in the month of September, he just steals 9 in the final 30 days of the season. He's 18 for 21 in his career stolen base attempts. So clearly he's capable and has the speed to do it. And I think we could see an increase, that was surprisingly hard to get out, in his attempts. But he's obviously got to stay healthy in order for that to happen. And if he's healthy enough to play, that doesn't necessarily mean he's healthy enough to steal second base, as we've seen over the past few years. The other name I could see being a base threat over the course of the year is someone I haven't really talked about at all over the last couple weeks. It's Austin Martin. Martin can play multiple spots in the infield and the outfield, but he's not going to be an everyday player. He's good against lefties, so he could be a regular against left-handed pitchers, but otherwise he'll probably be an injury fill-in and or pinch hitter / pinch runner. He stole 11 bases in 50 MLB games last year, but his attempts have gone down every season in recent years. He stole 35 bases in the minors in 2022, then had just 19 in 2023, 15 in 2024, and then 14 total last year. He had a few in the minors counting towards his total in 2024 and 2025, but still, 15 and 14 over the last 2 years. Nothing crazy. I just don't know how many chances he'll be getting, but he's certainly capable of being a base stealer. Austin Martin is. And then for some minor leaguers that we could see in the majors that could be base stealing threats, there are a few. Emmanuel Rodriguez, the Twins' second highest outfield prospect, stole 10 bases in 65 games last year. I do think we'll see him get called up to the majors at some point over the season. Walker Jenkins, who I just talked about extensively yesterday, can steal bases as well. And then Kalen Culpepper, who is the Twins' top infield prospect, stole 25 bases on 29 attempts in the minors last season. I'm not positive that he'll get to the majors in 2026. If I were betting on it, I'd say he will. But those are some names that I could see or will see being aggressive on the base paths with new manager Derek Shelton. And I hope the Twins are a more aggressive team this year because they really haven't been a team that steals a lot of bases in recent history. And this feels like a year that could change. So I would like to see the Twins be slightly more aggressive on the base paths. And then, as always, to wrap up the episode, we've got our daily Twins player preview. Today is player preview number 7, and it's our first reliever deep dive. It's Cole Sands. I've been holding off from doing relievers for these player previews just because I'm still not sure what the bullpen will look like on opening day, but I'm nearly positive that Cole Sands will have a spot. Sands began his MLB career as a starter. That lasted about a week and a half before being moved to the bullpen full-time, and he's been a solid reliever. Last year, his numbers were down a bit, but he finished with a 4.5 ERA across 72 innings with 64 strikeouts to 19 walks. His expected ERA was a 3.88, so he might have gotten a little unlucky last year in the grand scheme of things. He's got a nice 5-pitch mix with a 4-seam fastball, a cutter, splitter, curveball, and a sinker. His splitter, curveball, and cutter are all really, really nice pitches. His 4-seam gets good horizontal movement as well. 2025 was not his best year by any means, but there are encouraging things for him to build on. He got way more ground balls last year than he usually does, which is great for a pitcher. And over the last 2 years, he has not really walked many guys. But I want to see the 2024 version of Cole Sands because he finished with a 3.28 ERA over 71 innings and 85 strikeouts to 12 walks that season. I've talked about a pitcher's strikeout to walk ratio and how you usually want to see that around 3-1. Sands in 2025 had a 3.4-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Very good. But in 2024, that was at 7-1, which is just absurd. His strikeout percentage was 29% of every single batter he faced in 2024. Last year, that would have been in the 88th percentile of all pitchers. Last year, that number was at just 21.4% of all batters he faced and was in the 41st percentile of all pitchers. Everything kind of just took a step back for Cole Sands, aside from getting more ground balls, and he still gave up one more home run than he did in 2024. I think part of the reason he was so good in 2024 was because his primary pitch was his cutter. He threw it 30% of the time compared to 24% in 2025. His splitter usage was also down last year compared to 2024. I'd like to see him use both of those pitches more in 2026. I think Sands has the best chances of being the Twins' best reliever this year. I'm not sure that means he'll be the closer, though. He has 8 career saves compared to 7 career blown saves. So maybe in certain situations, you send him out there for the 9th inning. But I think all in all, this will be a closer by committee type of bullpen. However, if 2024 Cole Sands returns, like I mentioned, I think you could very well see him being the Twins' primary closer. I wouldn't bet on that, but I do think Cole Sands will be a very useful arm out of the Twins' bullpen in 2026. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Twins Latest. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed it, please do me a favor and subscribe. If you've got any Twins-related topics you want me to touch on in a future episode, please let me know in the comments below. But until next time, I'm Sam Calder, and I'm out.